And the West copes in regards to the Saudi-Iran deal. From Barron's, U.S. welcomes Iran-Saudi deal, but voices skepticism. The U.S. on Friday said it welcomes a Chinese brokered thaw in relations between rivals Iran and Saudi Arabia, but expressed doubts that Tehran will follow through on its commitments. White House National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said, "We welcome the diplomatic deal if, for example, it leads to peace in Yemen, where the two regional powers back opposite sides. We'll see. It really does remain to be seen whether the Iranians are going to honor their side of the deal. This is not a regime that typically does honor its word," Kirby said. "We'd like to see that this war in Yemen end and that this arrangement that they have might help lead us to that outcome," he said. Asked about the unusual Chinese role in helping to bring together U.S. ally Saudi Arabia and an arch foe of Iran, Kirby said that Iran was brought to the table because of the pressure that it's under both abroad and from domestic discontent. "We certainly continue to watch China as they try to gain influence and footholds elsewhere around the world in their own interests." Israel steps up talks with Saudi Arabia over ties to combat Iran. This is from Bloomberg. Israel's new government has stepped up talks, or U.S.-backed talks, with Saudi Arabia on developing closer military and intelligence ties in light of growing concerns about Iran. According to several people familiar with the discussions, officials from the two countries held exploratory meetings ahead of the recent U.S. Gulf Cooperation Council Working Group gathering on defense and security in Riyadh, 6 people said, asking not to be identified as the talks are private. Further engagement is expected to take place in Prague to coincide with the Munich Security Conference this week, and 3 of the people said. Oh, my apologies. This is an older article. Let's go to something more recent. Saudi deal with Iran worries Israel and shakes up the Middle East. This is from Politico. News of the rapprochement between longtime regional rivals Saudi Arabia and Iran sent shockwaves through the Middle East and dealt a symbolic blow to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who's made the threat posed by Tehran a public diplomacy priority and personal crusade. The breakthrough, a culmination of more than a year of negotiations in Baghdad and more recent talks in China, also became ensnared in Israel's internal politics, reflecting the country's divisions at a moment of national turmoil. The agreement, which gives Iran and Saudi Arabia 2 months to reopen their respective embassies and reestablish ties after 7 years of rupture, more broadly represents one of the most striking shifts in Middle Eastern diplomacy over recent years. In countries like Yemen and Syria, long caught between the Sunni kingdom and the Shiite powerhouse, the announcement stirred cautious optimism. In Israel, it caused disappointment, along with finger-pointing. One of the Netanyahu's greatest foreign policy triumphs remained Israel's U.S.-brokered normalization deals in 2020 with 4 Arab states, including Bahrain, the U.S., and Arab Emirates. They were part of a wider push to isolate and oppose Iran in the region. He has portrayed himself as the only politician capable of protecting Israel from Tehran's rapidly accelerating nuclear program and regional proxies like Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Israel and Iran have also waged a regional shadow war that's led to suspected Iranian drone strikes on Israel-linked ships ferrying goods in the Persian Gulf, among other attacks. A normalization deal with Saudi Arabia, the most powerful and wealthy Arab state, would fulfill Netanyahu's prized goal, reshaping the region and boosting Israel's standing in historic ways, even as backdoor relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia have grown. The kingdom has said it won't officially recognize Israel before a resolution to the decades-long Israeli-Palestine conflict. Since returning to office late last year, Netanyahu and his allies have hinted that a deal with the kingdom could be approaching. And from the AP, China denies hidden motives after hosting Iran-Saudi talks. After hosting talks at which Iran and Saudi Arabia agreed to re-establish diplomatic relations, China said Saturday it has no hidden motives and isn't trying to fulfill any vacuum in the Middle East. The agreement announced Friday to establish Iran-Saudi ties and reopen embassies after 7 years was seen as a major diplomatic victory for China as Gulf Arab states perceived the United States as reducing its presence in the Middle East. The foreign policy quoted an unidentified spokesperson as saying China pursues no selfish interest whatsoever and opposes geopolitical competition in the region. China will continue to support Mideast countries in resolving differences through dialogue and consultation to jointly promote lasting peace and stability, the spokesperson said. We respect the stature of Middle East countries as the masters of this region and oppose geopolitical competition in the Middle East, said the statement posted on the Foreign Ministry's website. China has no intention to and will not seek to fill so-called vacuum or put up exclusive blocks, it said in an apparent reference to the U.S. China will continue to contribute its insights and proposals to realizing peace and tranquility in the Middle East and play its role as a responsible major country in this process. And from I-24, Palestinian factions welcome rapprochement between Iran and Saudi Arabia. This important step is in the interest of the Palestinian cause and supports the steadfastness of our people in the face of the occupation. Palestine factions over the weekend hailed Iran and Saudi Arabia's decision to restore diplomatic ties, according to media reports. Tehran and Riyadh announced on Friday that they would restore diplomatic ties within 2 months following talks in China after years of hostility. The Palestine presidency appreciates the role of China in contributing to the conclusion of the agreement, the Palestine President Mahmoud Abbas said in a statement. We hope the agreement will lead to stability and enhance a positive atmosphere in the region, it added. Taysir Khalid, a senior official of the Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine, expressed hope that the initiative constitutes a major step in addressing the economic, political, and security challenges in the Middle East faces, or security challenges that the Middle East faces, as cited by the Jerusalem Post. Khalid praised China for the great achievement, saying the agreement deals a severe blow to the policy of hegemony pursued by successive U.S. administrations and to the policy of the right-wing Zionist government. Khalil al-Hayya, a member of Hamas political bureau, and the Saudi-Iranian deal was an important step toward unifying the ranks of the Muslim community. According to him, this agreement will strengthen security and understanding between between Arab and Islamic countries and will contribute to the stability of the region. This important step is in the interest of the Palestinian cause and supports the steadfastness of our people in the face of the occupation and its continued aggression, the occupation and its continued aggression against our land, our people, and our holy places, Hayya said in a statement. From Israel Today, Palestinians thrilled by Saudi-Iran agreement. Top PLO officials hail blow to Netanyahu government and say it's clearly time to abandon America as an honest peace broker. What's being hailed in the United States and Israel as a major diplomatic failure is a cause for celebration among the Palestinian Authority. The surprise China brokered rapprochement between Saudi Arabia and Iran presumably holds Israel's efforts to normalize relations with the Arab world, while bolstering the Jewish state's primary regional foe and the chief backer of Palestinian terror groups like Hamas and Islamic Jihad. The Palestinian presidency appreciates the Chinese role that contributed to reaching the agreement, read a statement released by the Palestinian Authority. We hope that the agreement will lead to stability and enhance the positive atmosphere in the region. For Israel and the West, any deal that aids the ambitions of the Ayatollahs in Tehran can only lead to instability and more belligerence in the Middle East. Members of the PLO Executive Committee, the power behind the Palestinian Authority, hailed the agreement as a blow to Israel's new government and a clear signal that it was time for the Palestinians to stop looking to Washington as an honest and unbiased peace broker. In other words, the Palestinians have already aligned with Iran and want to now align further with the global axis led by Russia and China, which is increasingly in conflict with the West. And here is Hussein Askari on the matter, and he is on Li Jingjing's YouTube.
London and in Washington will lose sleep tonight, or already did last night, because this, as I said, overturns their whole imagined system of rules-based order, that the dominance of the West, that this is the end of history, and our system will prevail in the world. It's not going to happen. This is the reactions. Remember when President Xi went to Saudi Arabia, the process which President Xi Jinping started in 2016 resulted in the comprehensive strategic agreement with Saudi Arabia, and later comprehensive strategic initiative with Iran. Now, before the Iranian thing happened, when President Xi Jinping was in Saudi Arabia and signed the comprehensive strategic agreement with Saudi Arabia, many people in think tanks in Washington and in London said, oh, the Chinese threw the Iranians under the bus because they went with Saudi Arabia and left Iran behind alone. And I told people, look, this is insane. This is your way of looking at the world. This is the zero-sum game. You are either with Saudi Arabia or with Iran. The Chinese don't think like this. And a couple of months later, suddenly, Iran and China, President Raisi goes to China and signs the same strategic comprehensive agreement with China. So this is how those people cannot comprehend. It's like in the Bible, it says, there was light, but darkness could not fathom it. And those people live in the darkness, and they are unable to understand the light, because it's not in their character, it's not in their nature. Now, this is a minority of people. Unfortunately, they are very powerful minority. They are the military-industrial complex, or what the former CIA analyst Ray McGovern calls it, the Mickey Mac, the military-industrial congressional media academia complex. And these people control the military policy, security policy, economic policy, media, and now even academic circles. And they push this dark ideology all over the world. But now people around the world are realizing this is not working. And this is hurting us. Like in the destruction of the Nord Stream pipelines, it hit Germany, who's an ally of the United States. So people in Europe, especially in Germany specifically, but also all over Europe, now we have demonstrations, million-man demonstrations. In France, for example, people are waking up to the fact that this system, this rules-based system, this liberal economic policy has destroyed their life and now is threatening to bring them to the brink of World War III.
This is really a good news, and I hope
we'll be back with more news.